Welcome back to the Reading and Writing Podcast. My guest today is Alana Winters. Alana writes short, romantic, erotic novellas. Her latest book is Vanished in Baltimore. Alana, welcome to the podcast.
Hi, Jeff. Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, absolutely. If someone listening hasn't yet heard about your latest novel, Vanished in Baltimore, how would you describe the novel?
It's a dark, steamy romance, and it's part of the Vanish series with 10 other authors. Each story has a mafia boss from a different city where they fall for their captives. And the first story, Vanished in Brooklyn by Kylie Marcus, is actually releasing today. And it's on Amazon and Kindle Unlimited. And there's going to be a new release every day for the rest of the month.
And so when will Vanished in Baltimore be published?
Mine is coming out on the 26th.
Great. And do you remember the original idea that led you to write Vanished in Baltimore? Is this something that you coordinated with the other 10 authors?
It actually all started with, it's just my favorite genre. I love Mafia movies. I always have. And so I've always wanted to write something like this, but it was kind of intimidating for me because it was what I wanted to do the most. And I also, at the same time, wanted to do a collaboration with other authors really badly, but I didn't know how to get into one. So I had the idea to just start one on my own. It just from there, it spiraled into this great thing where I've met amazing people. Authors are the most fantastic people. They're so helpful. And we've just made such great relationships.
And so were you the one? It sounds like you're the one who came up with the idea for the 11 authors to get together and write specifically about these dark mafia romances. Is that correct?
Yes.
And so what was the process for you of reaching out to authors? Were these authors that you knew already?
No, I didn't know any of them. So my mentor is another author named Fern Fraser, and I highly recommend, before even publishing or doing anything, reach out to many as authors as you can and just get as much advice as you can. They're so helpful, so nice. And she set me up in a Facebook group where I was able to post something and say, hey, here's my idea. Does anybody want to do this with me? And I was overjoyed with how many responses I got. And from there, it just it spiraled into this great thing. And Fern Fraser told me everything I needed to do to get started and get organized. And from there, all the other authors in the group helped me with everything. One of the other authors, Matilda Martell, she did all of our graphics for us. She did our covers, our logo, just so many great, amazing things. They look amazing.
And so is there a name for the overarching series?
Yes, it's called the Vanish Series. So every book will be like my book's Vanished in Baltimore, but there's Vanished in Manhattan. And so you just get to see a new city and every boss and how they run their city.
And is there a website specifically for this series?
Yes, there is. And where's that link at?
That's fine. That's fine. You can look it up and I can edit this. It's not a problem.
All right.
No, it's okay.
Oh, I actually didn't write that down. That's weird.
That's fine. That's fine.
Is that all right? Okay.
Yeah, it's fine. It's fine. So can you tell me a little bit about the kind of how the process worked for you, kind of a workflow of coordinating all of this? I mean, you obviously came up with this idea of other authors writing these steamy mafia novels or novellas. You know what? Can I get you to hang on just a minute? My son just came in. Sorry about that.
No problem.
Hang on just 1 second. Okay, I'm in the middle of you're right. So can you tell me about kind of the workflow and how you coordinated with these authors? I'm assuming that you had the idea of writing these steamy mafia novels or novellas. Did you like work in Google Docs and everyone came up with their city? Can you tell us a little bit about how that worked?
Yes. Well, I had to learn how to use a spreadsheet for the first time. um, so that was very interesting. And I let everybody pick their own city. And then they picked their cover models and we started getting the covers done. And I had to set up guidelines for everybody, how long their books needed to be, what the pricing was going to be, all of these little details that there's so many, 1,000 little details that you have to think of. And just when you think you got them all, there's 10 more waiting for you. So set up with PR companies, and it was just one thing after another. And I really think that it's just so incredible to do this with other authors, because otherwise you're just doing it alone. So having people have your back and being able to be like, hey guys, I don't really know how to do this. And everybody was so understanding with me being new. It
Right.
was incredible.
Well, what was your initial writing journey that led you to writing and getting your first romance novel published?
So I've always wanted to like do something to entertain people. I started off in the film industry, working in the art department. And I practiced writing for years, and I never had the courage to share a story. And then my friend Lindsay was like, you're really good at this. You should, just put a story out there for free. See what happens. So I was like, all right. And it built from there. People started liking what I wrote. And I'll be honest with you, I read the stuff that I wrote at the beginning and it's rough. So I really appreciate the people that read it and liked it. So now I've just, you can see your growth, and the growth I've had in a year is so amazing, because I started publishing a year ago. I've been writing for 3 years seriously, where before it was more like just throwing everything away that I wrote. um, so it definitely took years of me getting the courage, getting the skills down, reading other books, seeing what other authors did. There's a certain formula to romance books that, readers expect, and meeting those marks are very important. You don't want to disappoint anyone, especially yourself either. And I have had books where I wanted to go back and change them later. And, you just grow and you learn so many things, and you want to change all your mistakes from the past.
Hey, this is Jeff, the host of the Reading and Writing podcast. Thanks again for listening to the podcast. I have a company that I want to tell you about that I think you will definitely be interested in as a podcast listener. Family Sounds. Have you ever gone to a family reunion and traded stories and laughed with your relatives, and later you thought, gosh, I wish there was some way that we had a way to preserve those stories and preserve those memories when we're not face to face? Well, now you do with Family Sounds. Family Sounds can create an hour-long podcast that's just for you, that's just for your family, that tells the stories of your family and your relatives. And Family Sounds team, they're pros. They've done this before. They have lots of experience crafting stories for public broadcasting through radio and podcasts. They will use your family's voices as well as a professional narrator to tie the story together. Again, the name of the company is Family Sounds, and you can find them at family-sounds.com/books. Again, that is family-sounds.com/books. Family Sounds, your memories, your family in a podcast today. So check them out, family-sounds.com untitled.com/books. Thanks for listening. Are you on a search for a special holiday or birthday gift for a reader in your life? A reader who loves history? Well, I've got a suggestion for you. How about giving them weekly historic letters in the mail from Letterjoy? Every week, they'll receive a letter from a famous historical figure or an eloquent eyewitness to a major event. Past Letterjoy letters have included famous defense attorneys, the United States and China, or working on the railroad, exploring the American history of the railroads. For example, one letter was an engineer writing home to his wife to describe the tough process of laying tracks for the Transcontinental Railroad. Every Letterjoy letter arrives at your door on fine stationery or parchment with a real stamp. And each letter also includes the postscript, an article by expert curators on the latest letter and the historical figures and events connected to it. Visit letterjoy.co to give weekly historic letters to the historian in your life. And I have a special offer for listeners of this podcast. Use promo code BOOKS at checkout to get $5 towards your first order. Again, that's letterjoy.co, promo code BOOKS, to give a special gift to the reader in your life. Well, what is your writing process when you're working on a new novel or novella? Do you think of a general idea and just dive into the writing, or do you write an outline? How does that work for you?
I'm very meticulous with how I organize my stories. I usually start with the characters. I'll think about how I want them to be, what they look like, what their goals and dreams are. I delve pretty deep, everything about their family, trying to get what their parents would be like, how they would react to stuff before I even come up with a story. And then from there, I have my story going and I start outlining it. And the outline in itself just gets me pushing forward to the point where I feel like I almost have the story done.
Mm-hmm.
I just basically from that point, I feel like I'm adding dialogue and maybe some action points. But I get very meticulous with my outlines and make sure I have everything going, and I make mood boards for the characters. It helps me to remember when I'm actually writing who this person is, if I can see that visually.
Sure. Well, given the topic of your novels, kind of romance and erotica, do all of your friends and family know what you're writing? And I'm just curious, does that ever inhibit you when you're at the keyboard and working on something?
It did in the beginning. I had a major hang up over it, and I was like, oh, what if my grandmother finds out, or like one of my aunts or something like that? I was just like, oh, I'd be mortified. But then I got to a point where I stopped being self-conscious. Almost in general, you get to a point where you get a lot of bad reviews in the beginning, or even if you just get one or two, they really can affect you very deeply. And the good news is after a while, you kind of become numb to that stuff, and you're just like, well, not everyone's going to like this. It's not everyone's cup of tea, but there are other people that do love it. And even if one person loves it, that's enough, So there's just so much joy to like sharing something that some people do enjoy, but you also become so much stronger that you can just bounce back from a lot of stuff.
Sure. Well, what writing advice would you offer for those who are working on their own stories or novels?
First, I would say get an editor that you have a good relationship with, that good communication. My editor, Jamie, is just incredible. Like she just picks up everything I miss, and But I would also say, again, with just reach out to other authors, because there's always new stuff to learn, and you're always going to learn from each other.
Sure. And what have you learned about the self-publishing process? I mean, you talked about all of the organization required and coordinating with these 10 other authors, and then also, coordinating the publishing of the books. What have you learned in your journey so far about independent publishing?
It's about 3 full-time jobs. Yeah, people tell you in the beginning, it's a lot of work, and you really, really have to be passionate about it, because it's an all day, it never stops thing. You're always marketing your books. There's always a new book to start thinking about what you need for your blurb, what needs to be done to make your website updated. I run my own website. You run your own social media. You're just doing everything yourself. And so it's nice because you get to be your own boss. But I always tell myself that I'm like the worst boss I've ever had. I'm just just really tough on myself. So you really do have to love this and have the time for it, because otherwise it's just it can wear you down. It really can. There's always something new to do, something new to learn, and it's incredible how many details are involved in
Sure.
doing this.
Well, are you working on a new novel now?
I am. So it's coming out St. Patrick's Day, and it's called Lucky Star. And it's part of a collaboration called Lucky in Love, and it's a cowboy romance. So a little different from the Mafia one.
Yeah, a little bit different from the Mafia. I was going to ask you, what's your favorite Mafia movie?
Goodfellas, hands down.
Absolutely.
Right.
Good. Well, what novels have you read recently that you enjoyed?
I'm actually reading a book right now called Modern Love by Aziz Ansari, who's a comedian.
Mm-hmm.
And it's fascinating because it talks about how relationships have changed from generation to generation. But it also talks about how different relationships are in different cultures. So it's an interesting perspective to get from a comedian, but it's also somebody who's traveled a lot and seen a lot of different cultures. So his perspective is very interesting and entertaining at the same time.
That's great. Well, where can people find you online if they want to learn more about you and your novels?
They can find all of my novels on my website at alanawintersauthor.com. You can find me on Instagram and Facebook at Alana Winters.
Great. Well, again, we've been speaking with Alana Winters, author of the new novel, Vanished in Baltimore. The novel is available now, so go buy a copy. And Alana, thanks for doing this interview.
Thank you so much, Steph. It was great.
That's great.
For too long, we've lived in a world of canceled and delayed. No more. Those plans you've been making, they're on. Thanks to OnGo, the #1 ranked at-home rapid COVID-19 test. So that vacation where you get to swim with the pigs, it's on. Your friend's wedding that was pushed back 4 times, it's on. The roar of the stadium, it's on too. OnGo, COVID-19 test results in minutes. OnGo is available at letsongo.com/radio and Amazon. This product has been authorized by the FDA during the public health emergency only, and only for the detection of proteins from SARS-CoV-2, not other viruses. The claim #1 ranked is supported by ECRI's usability evaluation conducted in December 2021.